And welcome in everyone to this week's episode of Craze's Corner. We got two shows for you tonight. First show, we're going to be talking about this upcoming rookie class, quarterbacks and running backs. Second show is going to be wide receivers and tight ends. And so that's what we got coming for you today. We're going to be talking about, the top few guys, what we think about them, chances that they actually make it, where they could possibly go, and their fantasy football outcomes. We'll also talk about a couple guys that maybe are a little bit deeper down in some rankings. We'll each kind of give our own opinions on these guys. Maybe we like them, maybe we don't. We're going to start with the big one here. If you play Superflex Dynasty, or if your team's near the top of the draft and you're looking for a quarterback, quarterbacks are a big thing. We got some opinions in this group here with Jeff from media and Will from media, or maybe we're not as high as consensus on these quarterbacks in this upcoming draft. We're going to start it off with, the generational talent, the guy who's been this first overall pick in this year's draft for the past few years, and that's Caleb Williams from USC. Going to the Bears, he's got an all-new weapons they got going on there. They got Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Gerald Everett, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift. So they have the weapons around him. They've been putting some money into their offensive line, but they do have a defensive head coach. I think Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in this draft class. I don't really think that's a debatable spot. I think he's got the best chance to hit. I like where he's going. Will was talking about earlier, Chicago's been in talks for a new stadium. Also could help. Dome, you look at Jared Goff in a dome. Looks pretty good. Caleb Williams, all touted to be better than Jared Goff. So I like Caleb Williams. I'm excited. I think the Bears are a great landing spot for him. I think he's going to be a good talent. I think just temper your expectations. Don't expect, CJ Stroud from last year. That was, best case scenario. That's ceiling for Caleb Williams. So let's just temper it. He could be, maybe a low-end quarterback one, but that's kind of ceiling for what I see. Jeff, Will, what do you guys think? We'll go to Will first, and then we'll go to Jeff, because Jeff has the 101 in our Dynasty League. So, Will, what do you think about Caleb Williams?
I think he's a generational quarterback. I am a little worried because, being an older guy, the history of Bears quarterbacks. But there's new leadership there, and they're I think, putting in good infrastructure. If he hits, they're probably the dominant team in the NFC North for the next 10 to 15 years, to be honest with you. If he's what we think everybody thinks he could be. I'm more intrigued by them saying they're talking about building a dome, because if you could put him in a dome for all those home games, hold on to your hat.
I mean, you won't have to hold on to your hat anymore.
Yeah, no more Windy City.
Yeah, no more Windy City there. No more snow. That'd be good being up north there. That'd be good for him to be in a dome. Like I said, you look at a guy like Jared Goff, who performs so much better in a dome than when elements. And I think that's for most quarterbacks. It's easier to throw the ball when there's no wind, there's no other elements, no snow, no rain. You can just kind of focus in. Jeff, you have the 101 in our draft. Caleb Williams will be on the board for you. What do you think about this guy?
He's a guy that I've wanted since he was at Oklahoma. I was like, if I ever get a chance to draft him, I'm going to take him. Until it became with the Bears, and then they got my hopes up when they started, they added Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and I have a feeling they're going to get another good receiver at the number 9 pick. And then DeAndre Swift. And then I was like, but wait a minute. Shane Waldron is your offensive coordinator. So, it's like everything is building up. And I'm like, yep, let's pull the trigger. And I was like, whoa, hold on. Let's bring it back and recalibrate here, If it was the other way around, where it was the offensive coordinator for Washington, I don't know why his name escapes me at the moment. I would really be high on him, but Shane Waldron, it's like I'm looking at what he did with the Rams. It was a pretty decent offense, or what he did with the Seahawks, which was, again, another decent offense. And I'm like, was it what he had with Geno, or, that's the only thing that scares me. So, I am honestly still up in the air. I could use a quarterback, but
everyone could use a quarterback in that league.
Yeah. Who's going to be more generational talent between Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels? So it's almost like last year, you like Bryce Young or you like CJ Stroud. That second pick, that second quarterback worked out a lot better than the first quarterback, just depending to the situation that he went in. So that's it.
You're talking about Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. I thought the discussion today was going to be Jaden Daniels versus Drake May. Those are going to be your next two quarterbacks for the most part coming off most mock drafts. To me, Jaden Daniels profiles to be Justin Fields' archetype when it comes to what his fantasy value. I think is going to be good for a couple of years, but I don't think it's going to amount to any sort of, he's a top, half the league quarterback. He's going to be locked in. He's going to get his extension. I don't see that working out for him. And for Drake May, I think he's too inconsistent. And I think that the inconsistencies we saw in college, when you see it in college, it's not always that good. When Jameis Winston came out, he was amazing. But then he got to the NFL and he started making those kind of decisions. He did a little bit in college, but not as much. Drake May, you saw it all the time in college. And if you're going to bring that to the NFL, if he doesn't, Drake May to succeed would have to go to the perfect coaching staff. You have to be well coached, and he would have to have the weapons around him because he has the physical talents that Drake May needs to succeed are there. I just think that those silly mistakes are going to cost him his opportunity. So in my opinion, I'm not high on Jaden Daniels or Drake May. But Jeff, you said you are high on Jaden Daniels. You think he's going to be successful in the NFL?
I'm not super, super high on him. I think he would be in a better situation with the offense, with the guys, the receivers that he already has there, and than what Drake May is. To me, everybody keeps saying Drake May, Josh Allen. I'm like, do you remember what Josh Allen was for those first few years? He wasn't the Josh Allen that you see now. So I don't have 3 years to wait for somebody to develop into somebody. I to be that as soon as I draft them. So that's why Drake May is not in the cards for me. It would be between Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels if I'm going to use my first pick on a quarterback. So
I think Jaden Daniels, for fantasy wise, he's got that rushing upside for at least a couple of years. Drake May, when you look at him, it's hard not to compare him, in my opinion, to Mitchell Trubisky instead of Josh Allen. Both out of UNC. They're both, white guys who can run with the ball. And when you look at that, I can kind of see a career archetype for Drake May kind of being like Mitch Trubisky. It wasn't a great situation, never really had that success. That's kind of where I'm at with these two guys. Will, anything you want to say about Drake May and Jaden Daniels?
It's not so much the talent that the players as it is the teams drafting in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jalen, look, honestly, I think everybody is willing to take a risk near the top of their dynasty leagues on a quarterback with let's say the Vikings roster or the Bears roster, because you're like, hey, they got talent. It's not just on the quarterback. There's room for error to get the ball to Justin Jefferson or Keenan Allen, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time feeling good about anyone going to the Commanders. I have a hard time feeling good about anyone going to the Patriots. I have a hard time about anyone going to the Giants. I'll be honest with you. If the quarterback dropped and went to the Giants like Drake May, I'm probably taking him off my board in the first round because it just doesn't feel right. This kid's gonna get screwed over, and okay.
Drake May would go play with Daniel Jones, who is essentially another Drake May.
Right.
Like they're all that same kind of career archetype where they can run a little bit, but it's not all there. They don't have the accuracy they need. They can make big plays. Like you see, Mitch Trubisky, Daniel Jones make a massive play, and then they'll make 12 plays. And you're like, well, this guy can't be our franchise quarterback. When you talk about drafting these guys in super flex leagues in particular, there have been multiple research studies kind of done on where these guys are taken versus where they end up performing. And it's often found that quarterbacks are overdrafted in super flex leagues because people draft for needs And if you're in a 12-team Superflex leagues, quarterbacks are, super valuable. If you get one that hits, it's good. But a lot of the time, these, we see it all the time. Rookie quarterbacks come in. If they don't have the right, if they're not in the right system, it's not even about like the weapons that they have. If the system is not good, the coaching staff can ruin a quarterback. And I think that's kind of what we saw last year with D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud. There's a good system with Bobby Slowick there. They had the weapons, and it was a success. You look at Carolina, coaching staff was a mess, fired coach halfway through the season. They didn't have the weapons. They didn't have the offensive system that they needed. Bryce Young struggled. So I think you kind of have that where the situation that they go to me, is going to matter when I'm looking at drafting these quarterbacks in fantasy.
Right. And that's what I'm saying when Will was bringing up the Giants and guys like that. That's honestly, I don't know what you guys think about Cliff Kingsbury, but to me, he is a decent offensive coordinator. And I think you guys, I'm looking at the numbers that, what's his name? I don't know why I'm forgetting everybody's name today.
Kyler?
Was putting up. Kyler, in his first couple of seasons. He's an offensive guy. I'd rather have him as an offensive coordinator than a head coach. So that's what I'm looking at. And then, he's got decent receivers with Dotson and McLaurin, and I'm sure they're going to pick up some other guys here in the draft. I'm just saying, when you're putting him, I would rather take him looking at if Drake May went to the Patriots. He has absolutely nobody. So that's the thing. I'm like, at least Jaden Daniels has a little bit, to work with. I'd say a decent offensive coordinator. Kingsbury and Waldron. I don't know if one is really that much better than the other. He's getting a second chance, so you don't know what may happen. I look at it, the OC being a little bit better than being somebody that's, just going to be a train wreck. So,
I think that's fair. And like you said, some guys are just better at being offensive coordinators as opposed to their head coaches. Kingsbury's going to get a second chance. We'll see. Just two doomed franchises. If Drake May goes to Washington at 2 instead of them taking Jaden Daniels, then are you more confident with Drake May? I don't want the quarterback that goes to New England. They don't have the system. They don't have the weapons. So I'm out on any quarterback that's in New England. We'll talk briefly about JJ McCarthy, who to me has probably got the second best odds of being a success story out of all these quarterbacks. I think he's going to find himself in a better situation. I think he will follow, he's going to be that kind of game manager quarterback. He's not going to be the guy that's going out there. He's putting up 500 yards on the ground. He's not going to be the guy that's going out there and, making all these amazing plays, Patrick Mahomes-esque situations. But, you look at J.J. McCarthy, find him in the right system. I think we saw it in Michigan, run first, run heavy team. He won games with that. He's accurate, smart with the football. If he can go to a good coaching staff, I think, find him in Minnesota. Find him in a situation where, he can have success with the weapons, with Kevin O'Connell. If he goes to a place where it's like Las Vegas, I'm not so excited about JJ McCarthy. But I think he can find himself. Maybe possibly Denver could be an okay spot for him to go as well. I think he's got the tools. I think he could be, the second best quarterback when we look back on this draft class. What do you guys think about JJ McCarthy? Will possibly going to the Vikings?
I think the best thing to happen to JJ McCarthy was Harbaugh got hired by the Chargers because his stock parallels that hiring.
Yeah.
And I actually agree with you, Zach. I think he could be the second best quarterback in this draft class. I think it's hard for a quarterback to be a game manager in the NFL nowadays. Like, I guess a dying breed of quarterback.
Yeah.
Like you got to be able to create. You got to be able to score points. You got to be able to move it. And it makes me a little nervous because I don't think it's like that's not like for the Vikings, for example. That's not the offense they run. They're not a run first team. They're going to throw the ball. So, it's are teams able to not be – I think the thing that scares me the most about this draft is 3 quarterbacks going 1, 2, and 3, and then everybody else panicking They're trying to make a square fit in a circle, and it's going to be disastrous for fantasy rookie drafts because you're going to end up with mixed match quarterbacks that shouldn't really be in that system. The teams feel as a Viking fan, it's Christian Ponder nightmares all over again. And our front office is going to be smart enough to say, okay, those 3 quarterbacks are gone. There's really good players at other positions. I'm just going to take it and build my team. And if I have to deal with quarterback the following year, so be it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's definitely a good approach. Jeff, anything you want to say about JJ McCarthy?
Yeah, it's just, that was the thing. When you played Michigan, you knew exactly what they were going to do. They're going to run the ball, Yeah. So it was like when you're playing somebody and you're protecting against the run, usually, if you can get a decent arm and you're somewhat accurate, there's going to be 1 or 2 passes there for you to make. But when it's on you and the run game has stopped and now you have to pass the ball, that's the only thing. I haven't seen him to where he has had to be a true quarterback and, throw the ball quite, even a 50-50, So I'm looking at pro defensive coordinators. He is not going to be able to do what he did in Michigan. So that's my whole thing. You really don't know what you're going to get. I like his poise. I like all those things, but when you know what you're doing, you're just going to hand the ball off, and you know what your game script is. It's a little bit better and easier to go out there and play, especially if you got a dominant team. You don't know what team you're going to look like in the NFL, and if that team is, you've got going up against a defense that is stopping what you guys do, then what is he going to do? So that's my thing. There's just not enough on him to where I could be like, oh yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah, I think we've seen, like I said, just a little intangible things, the accuracy. Like I said, it is a run first thing that they had there going in Michigan. But when I'm looking at the 2 guys that are above him, and Jaden Daniels and Drake May, I think they both also have their questions. I think JJ McCarthy is just more likely to end up in a better situation. Is there any other quarterbacks that you guys are kind of liking? Maybe if they go to a good situation, do you like a Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix?
Yeah. I like Penix. I think Penix he's a late riser in the buzz department for whatever that's worth. Like, is that smoke and mirrors? But I'll be honest with you. After Caleb Williams and maybe Jaden Daniels, I don't know if I'm moving up a lot to go get Drake May or McCarthy over, and Penix is sitting there. Right. And with quarterbacks playing, I know he's going to be 24, but quarterbacks playing into their late 30s, I'll take my shot with somebody I don't have to give up a lot of draft capital for. I think look, on the non-fantasy side, I think teams are starting to realize you take your shot at quarterback. If it doesn't work out, you do it again until you find them. And look at the Giants. I don't know if Penix gets past the Giants.
I think he will.
I don't think he gets past Atlanta.
I'm praying he doesn't go to the Giants. I'm like, I don't know if they can protect him, and that's my only thing. I look at if somebody can protect him, he is that precise and surgical. Where he reminds me of C.J. Stroud, with his accuracy. Yeah. But that's just the thing. Is there going to be a team that can protect him? I mean, he's got a clean bill of health. He's been healthy the last 2 years, so I'm not really worried about those injury issues. But I am worried about him, after taking some NFL-type hits quite a bit on a team that can protect him.
Yeah, I'm a little worried the age, going to be 24. Not too many quarterbacks come into the league at that age and succeed. Similar problem with all the quarterbacks below him: Bo Nix, Jordan Travers, Leary, Milton, Hartman, Reed, and Rattler are all going to be 24 this year, or if they're not already 24. Like, this is an old quarterback draft class. Yeah. Jaden Daniels is 23. Like, these guys are old. I could see a situation where I think Penix will go probably mid to late first round. I don't think he goes in the top 10. I I don't think that the buzz is there for that. And I think after you get to a certain spot, the value at other positions just starts to get too much. And I think that's the direction that these teams are probably going to go in. Like I say, could sneak his way into the back half of the first for sure. If there's a team that maybe but with the Penix, he's 24. You don't really give him like 2 years to sit under someone. He can't do the Jordan Love archetype where he goes to a team that already has a quarterback. You kind of limit yourself when you come into the league this old. He's got to go somewhere. Maybe he goes to Oakland or Las Vegas if they stay where they are and he has a chance. Left-handed quarterbacks also just terrible to watch for me. It just doesn't look right ever. I can't stand watching left-handed quarterbacks. So for that reason, Michael Penix Jr., hopefully I won't have to see him playing on my TV. But let's move on to the running backs here. I don't have much more excitement for this running back class than I did for our quarterback class. Overall, I think there's no like true Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs guy in this class to me. I think I would like consensus running back wise, if we were to all pick a running back who we think is best out of this class, I don't even know if we all pick the same guy. For me, it's Jonathan Brooks, but he's coming off the ACL injury. He's probably not going to be 100% for week one. So if he goes to a team where maybe he can, play with a guy for the first few weeks and then take over from there, he could be the best running back in this class. Trey Benson, not bad. Blake Corum, almost 24.
Yeah.
And the Michigan, offense with the best offensive line in the country. Not in love with that. You got a couple other guys that, maybe depending on the situation that they go to, but there's not really one running back that's standing out to me like, I want to make sure that I have this guy on my fantasy football team. Do you guys disagree? Is there a running back in particular, maybe at the top? Let's start with this. Who is, do you think, the best running back in this draft class, Jeff?
I think it's going to be Trey Benson just because he's not coming off that injury. I do like Jonathan Brooks a lot. There were some games in Texas to where I was kind of looking at him a little bit more than Bijan. But again, even though it's an ACL and that's kind of like a regular injury now, looking at Trey Benson that is healthy, he's a dude that can carry the load. And honestly, what is kind of reminded me is like last year. It depends where guys end up. Like I'm looking at like a guy like Keaton Mitchell, who if he had not gotten hurt, he might be the starting running back for the Ravens this year, So it's just like you just don't know. It's that fit. So that's where it's going to be really interesting. It's going to depend on what teams these guys fall to, I believe.
Where do you feel, Will? Who's your top running back in the class?
Because of the kickoff rule change, I'm going to go with the smaller guys. I think the most valuable running back coming out of this draft is someone like Marshawn Lloyd. That kickoff rule, there's going to be a lot of chaos with NFL level players, and it was funny because Jeff and I were texting about the change in the rule, and then the story broke that the Steelers signed Patterson.
Yeah,
that was not by accident.
No, it was not. It brings some value to these guys. Like we just saw Deontay Hardy signed earlier today with the Ravens. Duvernay got paid. So these guys that now there's more value on them returning the ball. So it gives them a roster spot where at least now they have a better opportunity to get those touches.
Yeah.
I think I do like what you're saying, though. It's going to depend on where these guys go. Draft capital, how many of them go in the first 2 rounds? Yeah, probably none in the first round.
So in rookie drafts, do you see a run on running backs? And if so, when? Third, fourth round?
I would say rookie drafts, probably in the second round, you'll get your run on running backs just because they're so – like every team needs running backs. So I think teams, again, just like the quarterbacks things, you'll overdraft your running backs. I think – probably there will be one running back that works his way into the back half of the first round, just depending on the landing spot, if you get a good landing spot. But then you'll see a run on running backs in the second, people calling their shots.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think to me, my ranking of these guys is going to be fully dependent on how early a team takes them and what opportunity there is for those guys. You guys seem to feel the same way.
Yeah. We're all still mad at Seattle last year.
Yeah, for drafting Zach Charbonnet.
Right? Like what the?
It's a waste of a 10th of my first round pick, pretty much.
Yeah, so Charbonnet was like a 110 last year, and I think that's probably be the earliest you get a guy like Jonathan Brooks if he ends up in the right situation, or Trey Benson goes. Those would be my top 2 running backs. Braylon Allen, also another interesting name you could bring up. Jalen Wright, Tennessee.
I like Jalen Wright. I think Jalen Wright in the right system. No pun intended. But yeah, I mean, it's all about where guys get drafted, right? Like, if Denver took a running back in the 3rd or 4th round, I think we'd all be like, "Oh, that's interesting."
Yeah, the hit rate on running backs in the 3rd round is like the drop off is the 4th round. When running backs start getting into the 4th round, you look at your Michael Carters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think to me, it's going to be day 2, round 2, round 3. Where do these guys fall? Who ends up in Oakland? Or Las Vegas. They got opportunity there depending on Zamir White, Alexander Madison. Who ends up on one of these teams that could actually use a guy, and who ends up on a team like Zach Charbonnet where maybe Blake Corum is back to Saquon Barkley, or Jonathan Brooks could go to the Chargers, and then in which case he could be the number 1 running back there. Gus Edwards for the first 4 weeks or whatever. And then Jonathan Brooks take over down the stretch in a great Roman offense. That's one of the more important landing spots, in my opinion. Jeff, any names you want to throw out here? Anyone you like in particular, maybe a little bit further down the draft board?
Oh, man. Not really.
No, I feel that. Let's see.
Name, just because he's big. I forgot his name, but he's ran a little bit slower 40 than I was expecting. Can't remember his name. Again, it's where he ends up. It's pretty much it.
And that will wrap up our quarterbacks and running backs draft class show. Go check out the wide receivers tight ends show if you've already seen it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you learned something. We'll be back. We'll be doing a breakdown after the draft. 1 week after the draft, we'll also be live, hopefully, for our rookie draft. So you'll get to see, Jeff has the 102. Will has the 104 through 106. We'll get to talk to these guys as they're on the clock. See, are they trading out? Are they making these picks?
All tight ends.
Yeah, all tight ends. We're going Brock Bowers, number 1 overall, and then you'll have to tune in to see the next show to see who else we like at tight end. So make sure you stay tuned and go check out that other show. Thanks, Jeff and Will, for joining. Talk to you later.
All right.
All right.